Sorry, Mom. There's no room. There's no space. It's all booked. I was the only one left out. I simply said, okay. Then I disappeared for a year. I was 67 years old when I discovered that my own son could... Glass of water. But before we dive into this story, if you've ever felt invisible to someone you love, because this story will show you how far a lie can go within. The call took place on a Thursday in March. Henry was euphoric, using that tone of voice he'd had since childhood. Whenever he achieved something he truly wanted. Can you believe it? 5-star resort, private beach, all-inclusive. I held the phone with both hands, feeling my heart race. The boy I cradled on difficult nights after his father died, working 2 shifts as an English teacher to pay for private. That's wonderful, darling. When will it be? End of May. Marissa is already organizing everything. It's her dream, you know how she is. Marissa, my daughter-in-law for 3 years. The woman who entered our lives like an elegant hurricane. And, little by little, she changed my son in ways I couldn't explain. But I suppressed my suspicions. That's what mothers do, isn't it? We want to see our children happy, even when we feel that knot in our stomach telling us, something isn't right. I'm going to start saving money for the ticket, son. I wouldn't miss this for anything. There was a pause, brief, almost imperceptible. But I'm a retired teacher. I spent 40 years identifying the silence that precedes a, "Oh, Mom, don't worry about that now. Let's talk about the details calmly." And he hung up. The following weeks were strange. Henry stopped answering my calls as often. When he did answer, he was always in a hurry or in the middle of something. Marissa posted Instagram stories every day. Invitation samples, dress fittings, bouquet choices. I counted. I wasn't in any of them. It was my neighbor, Mrs. Evelyn, who helped me untie the knot in my throat. We were having coffee on her porch one Tuesday morning when, "Catherine, your daughter-in-law is very organized, isn't she? Wedding, 47 people. It must be a whirlwind, 47 people." I got home with shaky legs. I opened Instagram, that social network I only learned to use to keep up with and I searched. There it was. A story from Marissa showing a colorful spreadsheet on her. Confirmed guests 47. I wasn't there. My name wasn't anywhere. I felt like someone had pulled the rug out from under that feeling of free fall when you realize the abyss isn't in front of you. It's inside the person you trust most. I didn't call right away. I let the wound bleed a little because I needed to make sure. I counted to 100. I took a deep breath. I called. "Hi, Mom." Her voice was very soft, fake. Another silence. "I'm here, Mom. You can go ahead." "Have you already bought my ticket?" The pause that followed was so long that I thought the call. "Mom, the problem is this. Look, we've had some issues with the guest list." My stomach turned to ice. Problems? The resort has limited space, and Marissa's family is quite large. So we had to make some difficult choices. Tough choices, like I was one option among appetizers. "I know, Mom, but look, don't be like that. It's just a wedding. We'll have a party here in New York afterwards, I promise." I wasn't crying, but my voice still came out choked. "Wedding? Mom, don't make a fuss. There really isn't any space. The resort only has capacity for 47 people, and her family needs accommodations. The godparents. And I'm not close? You know that's true, but it's not just that. The ticket costs $850 per person. And the resort package for 3 nights came to $1,700. Everyone is paying their share." My hand was trembling. $2,550. A fortune for my $2,800 a month retirement pension. "Mom, stop. There's no room." "It's fully booked, closed. We've already finalized everything with the resort. There's no way to accommodate anyone else." Anyone else? I was that anyone else. The words left my mouth before I could even think about. Calm, controlled, as cold as my entire body had become in that moment. "I'm so glad you understand. I knew you'd take it well. We'll celebrate properly when we get back." Deal? Business. I hung up. I looked at my empty living room. The house where I raised that boy alone. The walls covered in photos of him at every stage of his baby, high school graduation, college, engineering degree. Just the 2 of us against the world. And now I was the other person who didn't fit into his. It was at that moment, sitting on the sofa I bought on a 12-month payment plan when I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to play the victim. I was going to disappear. But first, I needed to uncover a truth that had been stuck in my throat. And what I discovered 3 days later, rummaging through old documents in a shoebox in my closet, because my late husband Robert had left me something I had completely forgotten. But this I only discovered when it was too late for him to change his mind. The wedding took place on a Saturday in May. I know because I woke up at 6 a.m. that day and stared at the ceiling of my room, imagining my son putting a ring on another woman's finger. Invisible. Marissa posted everything, every moment. The sunrise in Cancun, breakfast on the resort terrace, the bridesmaids doing her hair, the bouquet of white orchids, the decoration with raw linen and tropical flowers, her sisters laughing, her nephews running on the sand. 47 happy faces, none of them were mine. I sat on the porch of my house in Morristown, New Jersey, watching my son's life through a screen. Like a stranger, like someone following the page of a random person. Evelyn rang the doorbell around 10 o'clock. "Catherine, I brought some cornbread." "I thought you might be all right." She didn't finish the sentence because she saw I wasn't crying, but my eyes were red from holding back tears. We were sitting in the kitchen. She served the cornbread. I couldn't eat it. "Do you want to talk about it?" "There's nothing to talk about." My son excluded me from his wedding because his wife thought, "Catherine, this is absurd. You raised this boy alone. You even sold your jewelry to pay for his college." When Robert died of a heart attack at 52, Henry was 15, barely covered the bills. I worked as a teacher in the mornings at a public school, and on weekends I sold gourmet brownies at the farmer's market. I sold the pearl earrings my mother gave me to pay for his. I even sold Robert's watch, that Seiko he loved. Abroad in London, I always said yes. I always found a way. And when he finally graduated and got a job at a multinational company earning $12,800 a month. But then Marissa came along. You know what's worse, Evelyn? I had $7,300 saved up. I saved for a whole year selling my brownies and doing. It was going to be a surprise. I was going to show him the money and say, "Son, I don't want to be a burden on your budget." And you told him that? I didn't have the opportunity. He cut me off first. He said there was no space, that he was fully booked. Evelyn squeezed my hand tightly. It wasn't about money, Catherine. It was about a choice. He chose to exclude her. The pang in my chest was so sharp I had to take a deep breath, because she was right. It wasn't about the $2,550. It was about my son looking at a list of 47 people and that Marissa's mother deserved it, that her 3 sisters deserved it, that his college friends deserved it, that even the godfather he met 2 years ago deserved it. That night, while they toasted with Mexican champagne under a starry sky, I went into Henry's old room. He'd moved into his own apartment 2 years ago, but he'd left some boxes there, and I started rummaging through everything. I don't know what I was looking for. Maybe an answer, maybe proof that I wasn't crazy for feeling discarded. At the bottom of a cardboard box filled with old things was a folder with documents I had completely forgotten, the deed to the house where Henry lived with Marissa. I opened it with trembling hands, and there it was. My name. The house was in my name. I closed my eyes, and the memories came rushing back like 8 years ago, Robert was still alive. We had saved $89,000 over 15 years of marriage. Robert wanted to invest in a house to rent and generate. We found a semi-detached house under renovation in Queens. Price, $175,000. Robert insisted that the deed remain in my name. I want you to be protected. This house is yours. Understand? Yours. I thought it was nonsense. We were married. What was his was mine and vice versa. But he insisted. He was stubborn, as if he knew something I didn't. 6 months later, he had a heart attack, and I was left alone with a 15-year-old son and I continued paying for it alone for 10 years. $340 a month religiously, even when there was no food in the refrigerator. Even when I had to choose between buying new shoes or paying. I finished paying off the house 2 months before Henry, and when he told me he wanted to move, that he needed independence, I offered. Use the house in Queens. I live here in Morristown, I don't need it. He accepted. He renovated everything. New flooring, paint, changed the furniture. It became beautiful, modern, in the style Marissa liked. I simply forgot. I forgot that the house was mine, that the deed was in my name, that I had never transferred anything. I sat on the floor of my room holding that piece of paper. It wasn't a smile of happiness. It was the smile of someone who had just found the only card. But there was something else in the box, something I hadn't seen before. A letter. A yellowed envelope with my name written in Robert's. I recognized it immediately. It was his handwriting after his first heart attack. I opened it carefully. Catherine, if you are reading this, it's because I am no longer here. And if you are reading this years later, it's because you kept this box and forgot about it, as you always do with important things. I put this house in your name for a reason. It's not just financial protection. It's because I know what you're like. You give everything to others and forget to keep something for yourself. This house is yours. If Henry ever gets married, has children, needs a place. But never, listen carefully, never transfer this house to his name without being absolutely sure it will be protected. Because we love our children, but we don't know who they will become when they get. We don't know what kind of woman will enter their lives. Keep this house, Catherine. It's your security, your dignity, your foundation. The tears came before I could hold them back. Because Robert knew. He always knew. I pressed the letter against my chest and cried. I cried for the man who loved me enough to protect me even. I cried for the son who forgot everything I did. When the tears dried, I already knew what I was going to do. I took advantage of you being busy celebrating to get my... Don't look for me, Mom. I put the note on the refrigerator, fastened with a New York magnet he gave me for my birthday. Clothes, documents, old photos, Robert's letter. I called Mrs. Evelyn. Evelyn, I'm going on a trip. I don't know when I'll be back. Could you check on the house from time to time? Catherine, what happened? I'm tired, Evelyn. On Monday morning, I took a bus from the bus station, 800 kilometers away. I blocked Henry's number. And I disappeared, because sometimes we need to disappear to find out who really misses us. Portland smelled of sea air and new beginnings. I got off the bus with 2 heavy suitcases. My legs numb after an 8-hour trip and looked around. The bus station was small, simple, full of tourists carrying surfboards and coolers. It was 7 p.m. on a Monday in June. The sky was painted orange and pink. I didn't know anyone there, and for the first time in months, that felt liberating. I asked the driver to drop me off near a cheap inn. He took me to the Seaside Inn, a yellow house 3 blocks from the beach, with a wooden porch and the smell of fresh paint. What's the daily rate? I asked the receptionist. She was young, probably in her 20s, with curly hair tied in a ponytail. $95 a night. Breakfast included. $95. It fit my budget. How long are you available for? She looked at me curiously. How long do you need to stay? I don't know yet. Something in my facial expression must have revealed that we're not fully booked this time of year. You can stay as long as you need. I stayed. 1 week turned into 2. 2 turned into a month. I woke up early, had breakfast on the inn's veranda. I walked on the beach until my feet ached. And then I went back to sleep all afternoon. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't open social media. My cell phone stayed on silent, accumulating calls I didn't answer. 127 calls from Henry, 43 text messages, 17 voice messages. I didn't listen to any of them. By the 3rd week, my money was running out. I had left New York with $7,300 saved. I spent $240 on the bus fare, $850 on a month's rent, $100 on food, medicine, and basic necessities. I needed to work. It was Jessica, the receptionist, who helped me. Taylor, do you have experience in sales? I sold gourmet brownies for 30 years at farmers markets. There's a flower shop nearby looking for someone to work. The salary is $400 a month, plus commission. Do you want me to talk to her? 2 days later, I was wearing a green apron and learning the names of the lilies, sunflowers, alstramarias, gerberas. Was a 74-year-old widow who had run the business alone since. She was slim, energetic, quick to adapt. Catherine, you have a special way with plants. And the customers like you. Do you know why? Why? Because you listen. You look people in the eye. Nobody does that these days. I enjoyed working there. There was something comforting about arranging bouquets, cutting stems and putting together vases. Each flower had a story. Each customer arrived with an intention. An apology, a declaration of love, a funeral, a birth. I started renting a room in a boarding house 6 blocks from $750 a month. Small, clean, with a little window overlooking the backyard where the landlady grew blueberries. I bought a used mattress, 2 pots, plates, and silverware. And for the first time in 67 years, that minimum was mine. Nobody judged me. Nobody made me feel like a burden. Henry kept calling. In the 3rd month, he stopped. The calls ceased. The messages stopped arriving. I imagined he had given up, that he had moved on, that he had forgotten his missing mother. But I was wrong, because in the 4th month, one morning in September, flower shop, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. Hello, Mrs. Catherine Taylor? It was a male voice. Formal. Professional. Yes, who is speaking? My name is Mr. Williams. I am your son's lawyer, Henry Taylor. Could you tell me where you are located? My stomach churned. Why do you want to know? Because we have an urgent legal matter to discuss with. It concerns the property located at 847 Forest Avenue, Queens. The house. They wanted the house. What kind of matter? I'd rather not discuss this over the phone. You could come to our office in New York, or if you prefer. What documents? There was a pause. Property transfer documents. Your son wishes to formally acquire the property where he... Acquire? As if I were the seller and he the buyer. What if I don't want to sell? Another pause. A longer one. Miss Taylor, with all due respect, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. Your son has lived on this property for 4 years. The water, electricity, and property tax bills are in his name. From a legal standpoint, I interrupted him, my voice firmer than I expected. The house is registered in my name. It was bought with money my late husband and I saved for 15. I paid for it myself for 10 years after he passed away. Not as an inheritance. Silence on the other end of the line. I understand. So you don't intend to sign the transfer? I haven't decided yet. May I ask what would be required for you to consider it? Tell Henry that if he wants to talk about the house... Oh, wait, he doesn't. Because I disappeared and he didn't even bother to look for me. He only looked now because he needs something. And you can tell him one more thing. I'm not dead. I'm just living away from the people who make me feel like I hung up the phone. My hands were trembling. Nancy appeared in the doorway of the flower shop. Catherine, are you all right? You look pale? I sat down in a plastic chair near the rose pots. Not to ask if I was alive. To ask me to transfer the house to him. Nancy made a disapproving sound with her tongue. What an ungrateful son. He didn't even ask how I am. He didn't ask where I live. He didn't apologize. And what are you going to do? I looked at the flowers around me, at the blue sky, at the sea in the distance. I don't know yet. But when I decide, it will be my way, in my time. I opened the old laptop I'd brought from New York and went. I searched house selling property with an absentee owner. I read for hours. I discovered that legally, Henry couldn't sell, transfer. The deed was mine. The power was mine. I also discovered that renovations done by third parties don't generate property rights. Henry had spent $63,000 on a house that wasn't his. I closed my laptop and for the first time in months, smiled. Because sometimes we only realize someone's worth when we... And I was about to show my son exactly how much I was worth. 6 months of absolute silence from me. Henry tried to call me 5 more times. He left voicemails that I listened to but didn't reply. We need to talk. Mom, I know you're angry, but this is getting ridiculous. Mom, for God's sake, we have a serious situation here. Fair enough. He spoke of justice. I deleted all the messages. Life in Portland transformed me in ways I didn't expect, which I always kept dyed dark brown to hide the gray strands. I had stopped dyeing it. I simply let nature take its course. I lost 7 kilos, not out of sadness, but because of the movement, going up and down stairs. My body ached less. My mind breathed better. I made friends. Nancy became a confidant. We had coffee together every morning before opening the complicated children, modest pensions, postponed dreams. You need to decide what you're going to do with that house. Bouquets for a beach ceremony. I know. You've been here for almost 8 months. He's not going to give up. Neither am I. She looked at me over her glasses. What do you really want? Do you want the house back? Do you want to sell it? Do you just want him to suffer a little? I thought before answering. I want him to understand. Understand what? That I'm not disposable. That being a mother doesn't make me a doormat. That if he wants something from me, he needs to treat me with at least a minimum of respect. Nancy smiled. Then you already know what to do. She was right. That week, I called Mr. Thompson, the lawyer who had helped me in New York. Miss Taylor, what a surprise. You've vanished off the face of the earth. I was getting my life in order, Mr. Thompson. And have you gotten it in order yet? Not yet, but I need advice. I explained the situation. The call from Henry's lawyer, the transfer request. Mr. Thompson listened patiently. Mrs. Taylor, legally, you are in a position of absolute advantage. The renovations he made do not give you property rights. He will not succeed. You cannot take possession of a property through adverse possession. Do you understand what that means? It means I'm in control. Exactly. Now, what do you intend to do with that control? I took a deep breath. I want to sell the house. There was a pause. Sell it? Are you sure? I am. But on one condition. I want my son to know that it was me who decided. And I want half the money from the sale. Half? Half. He can use the rest to buy a new property. Open the business he always wants. Do whatever he wants. Because that house was paid for with my sweat. And if he wants to get rid of me, he'll have to pay me for it. Thompson was silent for a few seconds, then said with an approving tone in his voice, Mrs. 2 weeks later, I received the documents. The house had been appraised by an expert. Current market value, $136,000. I signed the deed of sale. With a specific clause, 50% of the value would be deposited, non-negotiable. Mr. Thompson sent the documents to Henry's lawyer. The response arrived in less than 24 hours. Henry, for the first time in 8 months, I answered. Hello? Mom. Thank God. Are you okay? Where are you? I was desperate. I thought something had happened to you. I'm fine, Henry. My voice came out calm. Cold. He stopped talking. I received your offer to buy the house. Mom, look, I know you're upset, but it's not a purchase offer. It's a sale offer. I'm going to sell the house and I want half the value. Half? $68,000 deposited into my account. After that, you can do whatever you want with the property. Mom, that's absurd. I renovated the entire house. I spent $63,000. I put in flooring, painted, had custom cabinets made, and yet it's still in my name. Because I paid for it alone for 10 years while you were a... Mom, you can't do that. I can and I will. I heard a voice in the background, shrill, nervous. It was Marissa. Henry, tell her this is unfair. We need this money for the deal. We've already put down $85,000. And that was it. They used the house as collateral, promised to sell it. Mom, please. We have the opportunity to open a consulting firm. If we sell the house for $136,000 and you take half, that's not enough. Then don't sell. Keep living there. We've already made a down payment, Mom. That's not my problem, Henry. Silence. Then her voice trembled. Mom, are you doing this because I didn't buy your wedding ticket? I could have lied. I could have said no, that it was just a financial matter. Logical. But I didn't lie. I'm doing this because you treated me like I didn't exist, life, and didn't even have the courage to tell me the truth. You said there wasn't room. But there were 47 seats, Henry. 47. And none of them were for me. A sob came from the other end of the line. Mom, You discarded me when it didn't suit you to have a simple, because Marissa's family is posh. Because your friends are trendy. And I was just a problem, wasn't I? So why did you only contact me when you needed the house? My offer still stands. $68,000 or I don't sign anything. Mom, wait. I hung up. I sat on my bed in my small room in Portland, backyard, and I cried. Not from regret. Not from anger. I cried because I realized that for the first time in my life, it hurt. But it was necessary. 3 days later, Mr. Thompson called me. Mrs. Taylor, they accepted. My heart skipped a beat. They accepted? Yes. They will deposit the $68,000 into your account and proceed. Payment. The deed will be transferred next week. You need to go to the notary's office in New York to sign in. I need to go in person? Unfortunately, yes. It's mandatory. From Portland to New York. 800 kilometers. 8 hours by bus. A year after disappearing, I was returning. Not as the forgotten mother who fled crying, but as the woman who learned to demand her price. And respect isn't a favor, it's an obligation. Back then, a year ago, I had fled at dawn with a broken heart and 2 suitcases. Now I returned in the light of day with a light suitcase and $68,000. More money than I had ever seen in my entire life. On a Friday in March. It had been exactly a year and 2 weeks since I had left. Thompson picked me up by car. He was grayer, a little more stooped, but with the same kind smile as always. "Mrs. Taylor, you look different." "Different how?" He searched for the right word. "Lighter, but present." I knew what he meant. I had stopped carrying the world on my shoulders. "Do you have somewhere to stay?" "I'm going to stay at a friend's house." It was a lie. I was going to stay in a cheap hotel near Times Square. I didn't want explanations, but mainly, I didn't want Henry to know where I was before the signing. I walked the streets of Manhattan like a tourist. I ate a hot dog in Central Park. I had coffee at a delicatessen. I visited St. Patrick's Cathedral. Everything seemed new to me, as if I were seeing the city for the first time. Or perhaps I was seeing it with new eyes. On Monday, I woke up at 6 a.m. I took a long shower. I put on jeans, a simple white blouse, and closed shoes. I looked at myself in the mirror. 67 years old. Wrinkles around my eyes. Hands rough from so much work. But my gaze was firm. I arrived at the registry office 15 minutes before Mr. Thompson was already there. And so were they. Henry and Marissa were sitting in the waiting room, side by side. He was on the phone, nervous. She was looking at her nails, red, impeccable, freshly done. Henry jumped out of his chair. "Mom?" He came toward me as if to hug me. But something about my posture, straight shoulders, chin up. "Hi, son." My voice came out polite, distant. He seemed smaller than I remembered. Thinner. He had deep, dark circles under his eyes and a scruffy beard. Gray sheath dress, high heels, designer handbag. "Where have you been all this time?" "Sorting out my life." "But, good morning, everyone." The notary entered, interrupting. "Let's begin. We have here the deed of sale for the property located at current owner, Catherine Taylor. Buyers, Henry Taylor and Marissa Fields Taylor." "No, wait. We're not the buyers. We're going to sell to—" "This is the first step, Mr. The house needs to be transferred to your name first. Your mother will sign the transfer today. After the $68,000 already deposited is paid. Final buyer." "That's not how it works, son," I said calmly. "I sell it to whomever I want. And I decided to sell half to you." "Half?" "You pay $68,000 and you get the house. What you do with it after that is your problem." Marissa stood up, furious. "This is absurd. We already have a buyer. A couple who offered $136,000 cash. If we don't close the deal by Friday, we lose the deposit. You shouldn't have put a deposit on a house that wasn't. The house belongs to Henry. He's lived there for 5 years. The house is in my name. It always has been. And I let him live there for free for 5 years. I didn't charge a cent in rent. Now, if he wants the property, he'll have to pay for it." "Mom, for God's sake, we need this money. We've already closed the deal with the investor. It's the chance of a lifetime. And the wedding in Cancun was also the chance of a lifetime?" He paled. "Mom, I already apologized for—" "No, Henry." Silence. The notary cleared his throat, visibly uncomfortable. "We can proceed," I replied. I sat in the indicated chair. Mr. Thompson placed the documents in front of me. Deed of sale, transfer of ownership, statement of settlement. I picked up the pen. "Mom, wait." Henry came to the table, desperate. He knelt beside me. Literally knelt. "Mom, please don't do this to us. If you take half, we'll only have $68,000 left. Apartment. We'll have to rent. We'll have to postpone everything." I looked at him. My son. The boy I cradled. The boy I raised. The boy I loved more than myself for 42 years. "Henry, when you forgot to buy me a ticket to your wedding, did you care?" I didn't forget, Mom. It's just that there weren't any seats available." "I know. You already said that." I took a deep breath. "So now, when you ask me to give up money that is rightfully mine, that I maintained, I'll give you the same answer you gave me that day." "What answer?" "There's no room, son. There's no room in my life for me to be treated like I'm disposable and still come out losing." I signed. A firm signature without trembling. Catherine Taylor. Henry remained kneeling, looking at me as if he couldn't believe what had happened. "I knew it. I knew you would do this. You never liked me." "Marissa, My voice came out so cold that she stopped mid-sentence. Match the new decor of your life. You influenced my son to exclude me from his wedding. Think to send me even a single photo. So no, darling, I don't like you. But this has nothing to do with this sale. This is about me getting what's mine. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. The notary finalized the paperwork. The deed was registered. The house was now officially Henry and Marissa's for $68,000. They still had a week to sell it to the final buyer, me. It was still a lot of money, but it wasn't what they wanted. And for the first time in my life, I didn't care what they wanted. As we left the registry office, Henry followed me to the sidewalk. Mom, wait. Please? I stopped. I turned around. He was crying. Tears streamed down his face unceremoniously. I swear. I'm sorry for everything. I know you are, son. Then why did you do this? I looked him in the eyes, similar to Robert's. Because you needed to learn that your mother isn't a bank. She's not someone you use when you need something and ignore her. I'm a person with feelings, with dignity. And if you want me in your life, you'll have to treat me as such. I want you in my life. Then look for me when you're ready for it. Really ready? I turned my back. I got into Mr. Thompson's car. And I didn't look back. Because sometimes teaching the people we love hurts more. But it's necessary. I returned to Portland the next day, with $68,000 in my account. A weight lifted from my shoulders, and a strange feeling in my chest that took me days to identify. It was peace, mixed with sadness. But peace nonetheless. Nancy was waiting for me at the flower shop with carrot cake. So how did it go? I sat in the plastic chair among the lily pots and told the signature, Henry's despair, Marissa's fury, the coldness I needed to maintain to not give in. You did the right thing, Catherine. And do you know why? Because now he knows you exist, that you have a voice, that you're not invisible. The following days were strange. I expected to feel victorious. Or at least relieved. But what I felt was emptiness, as if I had won a war, but lost something precious in the process. My son. Had I lost my son? I tried to distract myself. I worked double shifts at the flower shop. I did overtime. I arranged flowers for 3 weddings, 2 funerals, flowers for every stage of life. Except mine. 2 weeks after signing the contract. On a rainy Wednesday in April, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. Hello, Ms. Taylor? It was a female voice, young, trembling. Yes, who's speaking? It's... My whole body froze. Marissa, I know you don't want to talk to me. I know you hate me. But I need to talk to you. Please? She was crying. Marissa never cried. At least not when I was around her. She was always composed, made up, perfect. What happened? We lost everything. My stomach clenched. What do you mean we lost everything? The buyer backed out. He didn't want the house anymore. We lost the $85,000 deposit they gave. And now? Now we have a house we can't sell. A business we can't open because the investor also backed. She sobbed. And Henry is devastated. He doesn't sleep. He doesn't eat. He just stares blankly into space all day. He thinks it's his fault. That he lost his mother and his life at the same time. Why are you calling me, Marissa? Because I need you to come back. Not for the house. Not for the money. For Henry. He needs his mother. He needed his mother at the wedding. Where was I? Silence. Then quietly. You're right. It was my fault. What? It was all my fault. I convinced Henry not to take you to Cancun. My heart raced. Why? Because my family is snobbish. My mother, my sisters, everyone. They judge everything. And I knew that if you came, they would talk. Comment on what? She hesitated. That you were simple. That you lived in a small house. That you had no money. She paused. And I was ashamed. I was ashamed of you, Mrs. Taylor. And I convinced Henry that it would be better this way. That it was to spare you. The words hit me like a punch. You were ashamed of me? Yes. Her voice came out choked. And I'm asking for forgiveness because now I know what it's like to lose everything. We're bankrupt, Mrs. Taylor. We owed $85,000 to the buyer who backed out. We had to take out a loan, another $42,000 in debt. And I see Henry suffering and I know it's my fault. I sat on the floor of the flower shop, leaning against the counter. Marissa, I don't know what you want me to do. I want you to forgive us, to come back, to give Henry a chance to show he can be a better son. I need him to be a present son, to treat me like a person, not like a problem. And he knows that now. We learned that the hard way. I took a deep breath. I'm not giving the money back, Marissa. I'm not asking for that. Then what are you asking? That you come see Henry once. He needs to talk to you. In person. I don't live in New York anymore. I know. We found out. We searched for you for months. We called hospitals, the police, everything. When your lawyer said you were alive and well, it was the only day Henry slept soundly. Months. They contacted me for months, but they only called when they needed the house. Marissa, I need to think about it. Are you going to think about it? I will. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. I swear we don't deserve this anymore. Thank you. She hung up. I sat there amidst the flowers, listening to the rain patter on the tin roof. Nancy appeared with a cup of coffee. Who was it? My daughter-in-law. She asked for forgiveness. Nancy sat down beside me. And will you forgive? I don't know. Forgiving is easy. The hard part is trusting again. You don't need to trust, but perhaps you need to hear what your son has to say. And you had a year to disappear. Sometimes, Catherine, everyone needs to get a little lost to understand what really matters. I remained silent. That night, alone in my small room, I looked at the photo I carried in my wallet. It was an old photo. Henry, 7 years old, a toothless smile. Next to him, me, younger, thinner, with black hair and eyes tired from working 2 shifts. It was Sunday, our only day off. I remembered that day. I remembered buying that ice cream with my last $5. Weak. But it was worth it because he was smiling. And at that moment, I realized something. I still loved that boy. Even as an adult, even with all his flaws, even though he had hurt me in a way I never imagined, I still loved him. I picked up my phone and typed a message. Marissa, reserve a place for us. Just me and him. The reply came in less than a minute. Thank you, Ms. You won't regret it. I didn't answer because I wasn't sure. But I knew one thing. If I wasn't sure, I would spend the rest of my life wondering, what if? And I had already wasted too much time on unanswered. The bus to New York left at 6 a.m. On Saturday. I couldn't sleep the night before. I lay staring at the ceiling, rehearsing what I was going to say, imagining what it would be like to see my son after everything that had happened. Marissa had arranged a meeting at a cafe in Brooklyn. As if we were 2 countries in peace negotiations, I arrived 15 minutes early. The cafe was small, cozy, with wooden tables and the smell of toast. I ordered a black coffee and sat near the window. I saw him through the glass before he saw me. He was thinner, much thinner. His dress shirt hung on his body as if it were 2 sizes too. Unshaven, dark circles under his eyes. My heart tightened. He came in, saw me, and stopped. For a second, neither of us moved. Then he slowly walked to the table and sat down across from. Hi, Mom. Hi, son. We were silent. A heavy silence full of unspoken things. He spoke first. Thank you for coming. Marissa called me. I know. I asked her to call. I thought you wouldn't answer if it was me. He was right. Are you okay? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. He ran a hand over his face. No, Mom. I'm not okay. We lost everything. The business didn't work out. We managed to sell the house, but for less. $120,000. And we still had the debt from the deposit that we had to turn. In the end, we were left with $93,000 and used the rest to pay off the debts. He looked at me, his eyes red. We're starting from scratch. Me and Marissa. And I know it's my fault. It's both of your faults, Henry. You put a down payment on a house that wasn't yours. You promised money you didn't have. You made plans based on something that was never guaranteed. He lowered his head. But it's not just that I lost. What else? He looked at me, and for the first time in a long time, not the proud man, not the smug husband, the vulnerable boy I raised. I lost you, Mom. My chest ached. Henry, no, let me speak. Please? He took a deep breath. When you disappeared, I thought you'd come back in a few days. Like to teach me a lesson and then return. But you didn't come back. And the more time passed, the more I realized you were really gone. And I panicked. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. I called hospitals. I went to police stations. I even filed a missing person report. Nothing. You had simply vanished. And I thought I'd lost you forever. Like I lost Dad. Tears streamed down his face unceremoniously. When Dad died, I was a child. I couldn't do anything, but when you disappeared, it was my fault. I pushed you out of my life. I chose to leave you out of my wedding because Marissa said, because I wanted to please her family, because I was a coward. He sobbed. And when I needed the house, when I looked for you, it was to get what I wanted again. As always. I didn't say anything. I just listened. Mom, I spent 42 years receiving from you. Receiving love, receiving sacrifice. You sold your jewelry to pay for my college prep course. You gave up everything so I could have a better life. He slammed his fist on the table, furious with himself. I treated you like a problem. I forgot about you. Henry, no, Mom. I forgot about you. On my wedding day, while I was there toasting, I remembered you weren't there. And you know what I did? Nothing. I didn't call, I didn't text. I didn't take a picture to send you. I simply moved on as if you didn't exist. He covered his face with his hands. And now I know. I know what I lost. Because there are nights when I wake up and the first thing, but I can't because I destroyed that. I destroyed our relationship. I let the silence fill the space between us. Then I took a deep breath. Henry, look at me. He lifted his head. You didn't destroy us. You hurt me a lot. In a way I never imagined my own son could. But that doesn't mean it's over. It doesn't? No. It means it needs to be different. Because I'm not going to accept being treated as a second. I'm not going to accept being plan B when everything goes. I'm your mother, Henry. I'm not your emotional backup. I know. You know now. But did you know when you excluded me from your wedding? He lowered his head. No. Then how do I know you won't do it again? He looked at me desperately. Because I learned, Mom. The hard way. I lost money. I lost opportunities. I lost a year of my life. He held my hand across the table. Give me a chance. 1. I promise I'll be different. I'll call you every week. I'll visit you. I'll include you in everything. You won't need to demand space. I'll offer it to you. I looked at his hand, large and rough, like Robert's. Does she agree with this? Marissa changed, Mom. After we lost everything, she woke up. Her rich family disappeared. Nobody wanted to know about us when we were broke. My mother, even though she's not here, even though she's gone, I remember, this is the only person who loved me. He squeezed my hand. Marissa wants to apologize to you in person. She's waiting outside. Yes. She didn't want to go in without knowing if you would agree to talk to her. I looked out the window. Across the street, Marissa was leaning against a lamppost. No high heels, no heavy makeup, jeans and a simple blouse. Unrecognizable. Tell her to come in. Henry gestured. Marissa crossed the street slowly, like someone walking to the gallows. She entered the cafe, went to the table, and stood there without sitting. Mrs. Taylor, Marissa. She wrung her hands nervously. I need to say I'm so sorry. I was arrogant, selfish. I thought money and looks were what mattered. And I treated you as if you weren't good enough to be near me. She swallowed hard. But after we lost everything, I understood. You're the strongest person I've ever known. You raised a child alone, paid for a house, worked your whole life. And when we disrespected you, you didn't beg. She wiped away her tears. I want to be half the woman you are. I remained silent for a long time. Then I said, Marissa, sit down. She sat down, surprised. I accept your apology. But I won't forget. Do you understand? Forgiving isn't forgetting. It's deciding that the pain won't control me. But believe me, you'll have to rebuild. We will rebuild, she said firmly. I promise. I looked at the two of them, my son and my daughter-in-law. I'll come back into your lives, but on my terms. I'm not moving to New York. I like Portland. I've built a life there. But I will visit you. And you will visit me. And we will try again. Slowly. Henry smiled for the first time. A small but genuine smile. Thank you, Mom. And there's one more thing. They looked at me. In 6 months, it's my birthday, 68 years old. I want a little party, but I want cake, candles, and people who love me. Understood? Understood, Henry, his voice breaking. We finished our coffee, chatted about mundane things, and when we said goodbye at the cafe door, Henry hugged me. Long tight. I love you, Mom. I'm sorry it took me so long to show it. I love you too, son. I always have. 6 months have passed since that coffee shop in Brooklyn, of weekly phone calls, of monthly visits. Sometimes I went to New York. Sometimes they came to Portland. It wasn't easy. There were days when I almost gave up. Days when I saw Marissa make an unfortunate comment, and days when Henry forgot to call me and I felt that old pang. He's just pretending. But then the next day he would call to apologize. Was small gestures, but consistent. And little by little the wound healed. My 68th birthday fell on a Friday in September. Henry called Thursday night. Mom, we're picking you up tomorrow at 9. Everything's ready. Ready, Henry? Said I wanted a small party. I don't want anything extravagant. Relax, Mom. It'll be at home. A simple barbecue for a few people. Nothing fancy. A few people. Knowing my son, that could mean 5 or 50. On Friday morning, I woke up early. I put on a floral dress I'd bought at a little shop in orange with white flowers, light and pretty. I tied my white hair in a loose bun. I wore lipstick for the first time in months. Nancy appeared at the door with a bouquet of sunflowers. Oh, Nancy, you didn't need to. Of course I did. You deserve flowers every day, Catherine. But especially today. Henry and Marissa arrived promptly at 9, driving a new car. A 2015 Honda Civic. Simple but clean. Hey, new car? I asked, getting into the back seat. Old, Henry corrected, laughing. But it's ours. No financing. We paid cash with what was left over from the house. Mrs. Taylor, you look beautiful. Thank you, dear. Dear. It was the first time I'd called her that. And it didn't sound forced. The trip to New York was uneventful. I heard some news. Henry had gotten a new job. Project manager at a construction company. $900 and $200 a month. Less than he earned before, but stable. Marissa had also gone back to work. Saleswoman in a clothing store at the mall. $2,800 plus commission. And you know, it's liberating. We arrived at their apartment in Staten Island around noon. 2 bedrooms, an open-plan living room and kitchen. But it was clean, organized, welcoming. And full of people. Mrs. Evelyn was there. My neighbor from Morristown who looked after my house. Nancy had also come. Henry picked her up early without telling me. Mr. Thompson, my lawyer, with his wife, Mrs. Irene. Jessica from the boarding house in Portland. And 2 people I wasn't expecting. My sister Beverly, and whom I hadn't seen in 3 years. With his wife and a baby in his arms. My eyes filled with tears. Oh my God. Henry hugged me from behind. Mom, you said you wanted a party with people who love you. It wasn't 50 people. It was 12. But they were the right 12 people. The afternoon was perfect. A barbecue on the small balcony. Henry improvised a portable grill. Cold beer, soda, salads, rice, beans. Beverly told me about her grandchildren. She already had. Kevin showed me pictures of the baby learning to crawl. Thompson joked about retirement. Nancy and Mrs. Evelyn became best friends instantly. And Marissa circulated among everyone, serving food, laughing. Without pretense, without arrogance, genuinely happy. Around 5 p. Henry clinked a knife against a glass. Attention, everyone. I'd like to make a toast. Everyone stopped. He raised his beer. Mom, I know there are things we don't forget. Pains that take time to heal. But I wanted to thank you for not giving up on me when I deserved it. He swallowed hard. You taught me that love isn't about being perfect. Even after making mistakes. Even when it hurts. And I want to spend the rest of my life being there for you. Just as you've always been there for me. He raised his glass higher. For Catherine, the strongest woman I know. Happy birthday, Mom. Happy birthday, everyone repeated. I couldn't speak. I could only cry and smile at the same time. When the cake arrived, a simple chocolate cake with strawberries, I blew out the candles, making a silent wish. Imperfect, but together. We were cutting the cake when Henry cleared his throat. Mom, there's one more thing. He took a white envelope from the top of the refrigerator. But we didn't know what to give the woman who never asks for. So we thought, and we came up with this. He handed me the envelope. I opened it carefully. Inside was a document. I read it once, twice. I couldn't believe it. It was the deed to a plot of land in Portland. In my name. Henry, what is this? It's a 300 square meter lot 4 blocks from the beach. The house, $19,000. My hand trembled holding the paper. You bought a plot of land for me? Marissa approached, tears in her eyes. Mrs. Taylor, you always said you liked Portland. That you had built a life there. So we thought, why not build something for real? A little house your own, so you don't have to pay rent. I couldn't quite grasp it. But you needed that money. You're starting over from scratch. We didn't need this, Mom, Henry interrupted. We wanted to do something for you, something that would show we understood. Understood what? That you've spent your whole life building things for me. And I never built anything for you. Until now. He pointed to the document. This land is yours, fully paid off. No debts, no installments. And if you want, we'll help you build. Not a mansion, just a little house. With a porch, a garden, space for you to plant whatever you want. I looked at the paper, at my name written there. Homeowner again. But this time it wasn't a house I had paid for myself over. It was a gift from someone who finally understood my worth. Like I hadn't hugged him in years. Thank you, son. Thank you, Mom. For everything. Always. Marissa joined the hug. Then Beverly. Then Nancy. Then everyone. And there, in that small living room of a modest apartment on Staten, with 12 people crammed in and a half-eaten chocolate cake, family isn't about being perfect. It's about rebuilding when it breaks. It's about being there when it hurts. It's about learning, apologizing, and trying again and again. 2 years have passed since that birthday. The little house in Portland was finished in 8 months. 2 bedrooms, a living room with an open-plan kitchen, simple ceramic tile floors, white walls. But the best part was the garden. I planted sunflowers at the entrance, blueberry bushes in the back, mint, basil. Every morning I wake up to the smell of the ocean mixed with. It's my little piece of paradise on earth. I continued working at Nancy's flower shop. Not because I needed to, but because I enjoyed it. Queens, I invested with Mr. Thompson's help. Fixed income, CDs, conservative funds. It yields $2,400 per month. Adding that to my $2,800 retirement pension and my $1,400. More than enough to live with dignity. And I still have money left over to save. Henry visits me once a month religiously, sometimes alone, sometimes with Marissa. He calls every Thursday night without fail, even when he's tired. Even when he has a meeting the next day, just to know how your day was, Mom. And he really listens. Marissa has changed in ways I never imagined. Become a caring daughter-in-law. She sends me random messages, photos of recipes, funny videos, memes. I saw this and it reminded me of you. Last Christmas, they came to spend 3 days in Portland. Marissa taught me how to make carrot cake with chocolate. Frosting. Hers turned out fluffier than mine. We would sit on the porch on warm nights, listening to the sound of the waves, talking about everything and nothing. And on one of those nights, Marissa told me something I'll never forget. Mrs. Taylor, I wanted to apologize again. Marissa, you've already apologized several times. I was raised believing that success meant having money. My mother always said, Marissa, you need to marry someone who has a future. And when I met Henry, an engineer who earned well, she stirred the passion fruit juice thoughtfully. But when we lost everything, my mother disappeared. My friends deleted me from their WhatsApp group. And I realized that nobody loved me. They loved what I had. She looked at me, her eyes shining. But you whom we treated so badly, were the only one who gave us a second chance. Life. I held her hand. Marissa, we all make mistakes. The important thing is to want to get it right afterward. I swear I do. And she really did. She proved it with actions, not words. Last week, on a random Tuesday, I received an unexpected call. But his voice sounded strange, trembling, emotional. Mom, I need to tell you something. My heart raced. What is it? Is everything all right? Everything's great. It's just that... Mom, Marissa is pregnant. Silence. I was speechless. Mom, are you there? Yes, I replied, my voice breaking. I just want to be a grandmother. Yes, it's a girl. We found out yesterday. She's 12 weeks along. But Mom, we wanted you to be the first to know. I cried with happiness, relief, and gratitude. Henry hesitated. We were thinking, Catherine, if you'll allow it. We wanted to honor the strongest woman in our family. I just cried more. Mom, does that mean yes? Yes, son. Yes. Today, as I water the sunflowers in the garden of my little house, I think about the day my son excluded me from his wedding. I think about the 2,550 I had saved to go to a wedding. I think about how I disappeared, how I paid the price, how I almost lost my son forever. But I also think about the land he gave me, the house we built together, the Thursday phone calls, the monthly visits, the granddaughter who will be born in 5 months and I understand something that took me 68 years to learn. It's about having the courage to correct them. Dignity isn't about revenge. It's about knowing your worth and not accepting less than. And family isn't about blood ties. It's about choice. The choice to be present. The choice to change. The choice to rebuild. My son hurt me deeply, but he learned his lesson, and I forgave him. Not because he deserved easy forgiveness. He didn't. And sometimes giving a second chance isn't weakness. I sit in the rocking chair on my porch, gazing at the ocean in the distance, and smile. Gray hair. Wrinkles from life. But finally, I have a place that is mine. And a family that chose to love me the right way. Not perfect, but real. And that, in the end, was all I ever wanted. 3 months later, the phone rang on a Friday afternoon while I was arranging Mom, I need you. His tone was urgent but not frightened. What happened? Marissa went into labor. It's early, 37 weeks, but everything is fine. But Mom, I wanted you to be here when Catherine was born. Nancy pushed me toward the door. Go. I'm closing the shop. Go meet your granddaughter. I took the first bus to New York. I arrived at the hospital at 10 p. Henry was in the waiting room, pacing back and forth. Thank you for coming, Mom. I would never miss this, son. Never. At 11:47 p.m., Catherine Taylor, the little girl, was born. When Marissa called me into the room and placed that I understood that everything, the pain, the disappearance, because there, in my arms, was proof that new beginnings exist, that families rebuild themselves, that love, when it's true, always finds a way. I looked at my granddaughter and whispered, Welcome. You've been named after a woman who never gave up. If you've made it this far, perhaps you're going through something similar. Maybe you've been abandoned by someone you love. Maybe you feel invisible, disposable, forgotten. I want to tell you something. You are not. You have value. You deserve respect. You deserve to be at the table, not under it. And if someone makes you feel different, you have the right. Not with anger, not with revenge, but with dignity. Because in the end, the greatest gift you can give yourself is knowing when to leave. And the greatest gift you can give someone who hurt you is the chance to do better. If this story touched your heart, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. And if you've been through something similar, what was your journey like? Like this, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Because everyone deserves to know that it's possible to always